Something terrifying is happening in America right now, and no one's warning you. Over 14 million jobs have already vanished since 2025, and this year, experts say it's just getting started. Job postings are fake, severance packages are masking real layoffs, and over 1 in 3 working-age Americans are no longer even looking for work. The Fed can't fix it. The government's cutting jobs too. And while the media keeps talking about soft landings, real people are applying to hundreds of jobs and hearing nothing back. This is the collapse of work as we know it. Unemployment is about to explode, and most people won't see it coming until it's too late. Most people have no idea how fragile corporate America really is right now. We've spent over a decade propping up thousands of what economists call zombie companies' businesses that only stayed alive because they could borrow money for basically nothing. These companies weren't making profits. In fact, they couldn't even generate enough revenue to cover the interest on their debts. They were the walking dead, and now, with interest rates no longer at zero, they're finally being buried. According to the Bank for International Settlements, the percentage of public companies in the U.S. considered zombies has surged to over 20%, that's 1 in 5. And many of these employ tens of thousands of people. We're already seeing the tremors. In just the first quarter of 2026, nearly 312 major U.S. companies have filed for bankruptcy. That's up 48% from this time last year, according to S&P Global. And here's the kicker. These aren't tiny startups, these are household names. We're talking about legacy media companies, retail giants, manufacturing firms, and even tech unicorns that once looked invincible. When these companies go under, they don't just lay off 50 or 100 people, some are cutting 10,000 jobs or more in a single blow. And the real problem? These layoffs cascade. Each one creates a shockwave. Suppliers lose orders, local economies dry up, and demand collapses further. We're not just talking about isolated incidents, this is a structural unwind of the cheap money era. And the government doesn't have the tools to save them this time. Interest rates are still way above 5%, corporate debt defaults are hitting post-2009 highs, and banks are tightening lending standards like it's 2008 all over again. So when you hear about a cooling economy, understand this. It's a polite euphemism for a jobs bloodbath that's quietly building under the surface. If you think the layoffs in 2024 and 2025 were bad, wait until Q3 and Q4 of this year. We're heading toward a tipping point, and when these zombie companies finally hit the floor, they're taking millions of jobs with them, and no one's ready for it. Mass automation is quietly replacing workers, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. While everyone's focused on interest rates and inflation, AI and automation are already eliminating jobs behind the scenes, and the layoffs we're seeing now might never be reversed. Just look at what's happening in the white-collar world. In 2026 alone, over 36% of Fortune 500 companies have publicly acknowledged reducing headcount due to AI integration, according to Deloitte's latest enterprise survey. These are not minimum wage retail or factory jobs we're talking about. These are accountants, customer service reps, content writers, analysts, and even junior software engineers. The kind of jobs that middle-class professionals thought were safe just a few years ago. Goldman Sachs estimated last year that up to 300 million jobs globally could be impacted by AI, and the US is at the epicenter. And don't fall for the line that AI creates as many jobs as it destroys. That might have been true for past technologies, but not this one. Because this time, it's not a tool that makes workers more productive, it's replacing them entirely. And here's the scariest part. CEOs love it. You think they're going to rehire that $85,000 a year employee when a one-time AI investment gives them 24/7 output with no healthcare costs, no vacation time, and no risk of unionization? And this isn't happening in some far-off future. Just look at Wendy's. They're rolling out AI-powered drive-through systems in over 1,000 stores this year. Bank of America has replaced hundreds of financial analysts with predictive modeling software. And legal firms? They're now using AI to handle tasks that used to take paralegals weeks. These weren't bad workers. These were smart, educated professionals who followed the rules, and now they're obsolete. The job market data hasn't caught up yet because these transitions are happening quietly, often under the radar. But as hiring freezes turn into permanent workforce reductions, the reality is this: millions of jobs aren't coming back. This isn't a cycle, it's a restructuring of the economy, and the people being left behind have no clue what hit them. The silent collapse of small businesses is unfolding right now. Now this one hurts because it's not just some spreadsheet number. It's your neighbor, your cousin, your local community. Small businesses are collapsing right now at a pace not seen since the pandemic, and no one in Washington seems to care. The NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business, just released a brutal report. As of March 2026, 62% of small businesses say they are operating at a loss. 38% and 41% say they plan to reduce staff or hours in the next 6 months. That's nearly half of Main Street America. And if you're wondering why this is happening, just look at the triple threat they're facing. 1. Consumer demand is falling off a cliff. People simply aren't spending like they used to. Foot traffic is down, online conversions are down, and average order values are cratering. 2. Costs are up across the board. We're talking rent, insurance, energy, raw materials, everything. The inflation may have cooled in the headlines. But try telling that to a restaurant owner in Chicago or a contractor in Arizona. And 3. Access to capital has completely dried up. Commercial loans are harder to get than ever. Regional banks are hoarding cash, and private lenders have jacked up rates to 15% or more. These businesses don't have the margins to survive that. And what happens when a small business shuts down? Those workers, usually 5, 10, sometimes 30 people, they don't get massive severance. They don't get press coverage. They're just gone, wiped out. And when it's a town where that business was one of the few employers, the whole community takes the hit. What's even worse is that these closures don't show up in the monthly unemployment data right away, because many of these workers go straight into part-time gigs, gig work, or simply drop out of the labor force. It's a hidden crisis. But the numbers don't lie. Commercial Chapter 11 filings are up 61% year over year, according to Epic Bankruptcy Analytics. And if you look at Yelp business closure trends, a staggering 56,000 local businesses have disappeared since January 2025. That's not just an economic stat. That's a social unraveling. And every small business that goes under means more jobs lost and fewer ever coming back. Retirements are surging, but no one's replacing the boomers. Let's talk about a problem that nobody's really addressing, and it's going to quietly detonate the labor market in the next 12 to 24 months. See, we've known for a while that baby boomers were going to retire in large numbers, but what no one seems ready for is just how fast it's happening, and the fact that there's no one to fill their shoes. According to the latest Pew Research data, as of 2026, more than 11,000 Americans are retiring every single day, and we just crossed a record-breaking threshold. Over 30% of the entire U.S. workforce is now over the age of 55. That's never happened before in American history. And here's where it gets worse. Younger generations aren't stepping up to replace them. Why? Because we've gutted trade schools, destroyed vocational training, and shoved millions of young people into college degrees that didn't prepare them for anything real. We've got massive shortages of electricians, nurses, truck drivers, skilled tradespeople, even engineers, but somehow we're overproducing marketing grads and TikTok consultants. The Bureau of Labor Statistics recently admitted that labor force participation among 25 to 34-year-olds is actually declining again, down to 81.4%, even lower than during the 2020 lockdowns. It's not just a pipeline issue, it's a complete structural breakdown. And here's where it ties back to unemployment. When boomers retire en masse, you'd think there'd be job openings, right? But what's actually happening is that many of those positions are just being eliminated outright. Companies aren't rehiring, they're restructuring, they're offshoring, they're automating. One person used to do the job, now it's split between AI, outsourced contractors, and a part-time assistant. So instead of creating opportunity, we're watching entire career paths evaporate. And this mass retirement wave is only going to make it worse. Not because there aren't jobs open, but because none of the jobs pay enough, offer security, or make sense anymore. So you've got 60-year-olds leaving in record numbers, and no one stepping in behind them. That's not a healthy economy. That's a labor time bomb, and it's already ticking down. Temp workers are the canary in the coal mine, and they're vanishing fast. If you really want to know where the job market is headed, Don't look at the unemployment rate. Don't even bother with the Fed's press releases. Look at the temp worker data because that's the signal nobody's watching, and it's flashing red right now. Temporary jobs are always the first to go when the economy turns south, and they're usually the last to come back. That's why this sector is such a critical leading indicator, and what's happening right now is terrifying. According to the American Staffing Association, temporary employment is down 18.4% year-over-year as of Q1 2026, and the staffing industry has cut more than 380,000 jobs in the past 12 months alone. That is the steepest drop outside of a declared recession ever. And this matters more than people realize, because temp work is how millions of Americans survive between full-time gigs. It's the fallback, the buffer. But now, that safety net is gone. What's even more alarming is that corporate usage of temp and contract labor is drying up across all sectors, not just retail or warehousing, but also healthcare, tech, logistics, legal, and education. These were the flexible workforces companies leaned on when full-time headcount got too expensive. Now even that's being cut. And here's why. Demand is drying up, corporate earnings are falling, capital expenditure is flatlining, and the last thing CEOs want to do right now is expand payroll even temporarily. Instead, they're shifting to even more precarious models, outsourcing overseas, replacing entry-level roles with AI, or eliminating the function altogether. This leaves an entire class of American workers, the temp economy, in limbo. These are people who used to bounce from gig to gig, warehouse to warehouse, office to office, and now they're getting nothing. No callbacks, no listings, no offers, just silence. And since many of them are classified as independent contractors, they don't even show up in unemployment claims. They've been erased from the data, but make no mistake, they're unemployed, they're broke, they're desperate, and they're growing in number. So if you want to know how bad things are about to get for everyone, just follow the temps. Because they're the early warning system and they're already gone. Job openings are a mirage. And the labor market is full of ghosts. This one's going to shock a lot of people because we've all been told the same lie for the past couple of years. That there are plenty of jobs out there if you just want to work. But I've got news for you, those job openings are fake. They're a mirage. And the labor market right now? It's full of ghosts. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics' own JOLTS report, there are supposedly around 8.8 million job openings in America right now. But here's the problem. A massive portion of those jobs don't actually exist. They're duplicates, old listings, placeholder posts, or evergreen roles that companies never intend to fill. In fact, a deep dive study by Clarify Capital found that over 43% of job postings in the U.S. are ghost listings, meaning they're not actively hiring at all, and this is being done on purpose. Why? Because companies want to make it look like they're growing. They want to collect resumes. They want to have a pipeline. They want leverage over current employees. If you don't like it here, there are 500 people who've applied for your job. It's all smoke and mirrors, and what this creates is one of the most demoralizing job markets in modern memory. People are sending out hundreds of applications only to hear nothing. They go to interviews only to find out the position's been put on hold. Or worse, the job gets filled internally, but the listing stays up for months. That's not a healthy labor market. That's a shell game. And what's happening now is that even the real openings are becoming traps. Companies are offering roles that pay less than they did in 2019, demand more skills, and come with zero benefits. So even if someone does land a job, it's often not enough to live on. And let's be honest, that's unemployment too. Just wearing a mask. And the scariest part? As the economy continues to contract and earnings continue to fall, even these ghost jobs are going to disappear. What we're seeing now is an illusion, one last flicker of light before the labor market goes completely dark. And when that happens, it's going to hit people like a freight train. The U.S. consumer is tapped out, and when they stop spending, businesses stop hiring. You want to know the real engine of job creation in America? It's not Wall Street. It's not the government. It's the everyday consumer, the single mom in Kansas buying groceries, the retiree in Florida getting their roof repaired, the teenager buying a burger after school. And that engine is sputtering hard right now. Because after 2 years of crushing inflation, surging interest rates, and wage stagnation, the U.S. consumer is completely maxed out. According to the Federal Reserve's latest report, household credit card debt just hit a record $1.34 trillion, with 57% of balances now carrying interest month to month. Not only that, but delinquencies on consumer debt are now rising at their fastest pace since 2009, with over 8% of credit card holders already behind on payments. And guess what happens when people stop spending? Businesses panic, they freeze hiring, they cut hours, they delay new projects. Because they know if no one's walking through the door, they're not going to need the staff. Retailers are feeling it first. In 2026 alone, Target has slashed 12,000 seasonal and part-time positions, and Best Buy just cut another 3,500. Restaurants are next. Traffic is down across every major fast casual chain, and smaller independent spots are shuttering all over the country. You've got empty tables, empty carts, and empty stores, and that means empty paychecks. And don't even get me started on services, hair salons, massage therapists, dry cleaners, mechanics, all seeing massive pullbacks in spending. Even Amazon has reported a slowdown in U.S. consumer sales for the first time since the pandemic. This is the canary in the coal mine, folks. When the average American cuts back on $9 haircuts, $4 lattes, and Netflix subscriptions, it's not because they're being frugal, it's because they're broke. And broke people don't generate demand. No demand means no growth, and no growth means no jobs. The problem is, most of these changes don't show up in the job market data right away, but they're coming. Because the economy isn't built on optimism or government statistics, it's built on spending. And when the American consumer finally slams their wallet shut, as we're seeing right now, the ripple effect will wipe out jobs at every level of the economy. You can't have a healthy labor market when no one can afford to buy anything. The shadow housing collapse is freezing the construction industry and killing off hundreds of thousands of jobs. You won't see this on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, but it's one of the biggest and most underreported drivers of the coming unemployment crisis. The construction sector is in free fall, and the housing market is dragging it down with it. Now, I know people think the housing market is still hot because prices haven't collapsed yet, but prices don't reflect health. What matters is volume, how many homes are being built, how many are being sold, and right now, both of those numbers are crashing. According to Redfin and the National Association of Home Builders, new housing starts in 2026 are down 22% year over year, and mortgage applications are at a 28-year low. Let that sink in. We haven't seen mortgage activity this week since the mid-1990s, and this is supposed to be a modern, high-growth economy. Interest rates are still hovering around 7% to 8% for a 30-year mortgage, and it's completely frozen the market. Buyers can't afford to buy, sellers don't want to trade up and lose their low rates, and developers, they're pulling the plug left and right. Just last month, Lennar and D.R. Horton, two of the biggest home builders in America, both slashed their 2026 new build projections by double digits, citing unfavorable financing conditions and collapsing demand. And when construction slows, the layoffs begin hard and fast. We're talking framers, roofers, plumbers, drywallers, electricians, HVAC techs, equipment operators, truck drivers, supply chain contractors, lumber yards, inspectors, painters, an entire ecosystem of jobs vanishing in real time. The Associated Builders and Contractors just released data showing that over 340,000 construction jobs have been lost since the third quarter of 2025, and another 200,000 are projected to disappear by the end of 2026. That is an absolutely massive hit to the labor force, and it's not just temporary, it's structural. These are jobs that won't come back until interest rates drop dramatically, and even then, consumer confidence would have to recover first. And here's what's really scary. Commercial real estate is even worse. Office vacancies in major U.S. cities are hitting all-time highs, and developers are canceling new projects altogether. We are entering a construction depression. Not a slowdown, not a pause, a full-blown depression. And that means one of the most reliable job creators in America just went dark with nothing ready to replace it. The U.S. government is quietly cutting millions of jobs, and they don't want you to notice. This is the part no one wants to talk about, because we all like to pretend the government will step in and save the economy when things get rough. But here's the cold, hard truth. The US government is not hiring. Right now it's firing, and it's doing it in the most silent, bureaucratic, slow-burn way possible. What's happening in 2026 is a massive, under-the-radar downsizing of government jobs across all levels, federal, state, and local. According to the Office of Personnel Management, the federal government has eliminated over 138,000 jobs in the past 12 months, the steepest decline since 2011. And it gets worse at the local level. State and municipal governments have cut more than 500,000 positions since 2024, especially in sectors like public education, transit, housing, infrastructure, and city planning. And it's not over yet. Why? Because tax revenues are drying up. Inflation drove up government costs. COVID-era stimulus money is gone. Property taxes are falling in cities where commercial real estate is collapsing. Retail sales tax is tanking because Americans have stopped spending. So what do cities and states do when they run out of cash? They freeze hiring, they delay raises, they cancel infrastructure projects, and then they quietly lay people off. They don't announce it in press conferences. They don't make headlines. But they absolutely gut departments through attrition, voluntary retirement, restructuring, anything that sounds better than mass layoffs. But the effect is the same. Hundreds of thousands of teachers, bus drivers, sanitation workers, maintenance staff, librarians, DMV clerks, permit reviewers, they're gone. And when those jobs disappear, so does the stability of millions of working families who used to rely on the public sector for safe, steady employment. These weren't flashy jobs. They were the backbone of America. And now that backbone is being snapped in half all while we pretend the labor market is still resilient. It's not. It's bleeding out. And the government isn't saving it. It's quietly accelerating the collapse. The American work model is breaking and millions are about to walk away from the labor force entirely. This one is the most dangerous not because it's sudden, but because it's systemic, and it's been building for years under the surface. We're not just heading into a spike in unemployment, we're heading into a collapse of work as we know it. Because more and more Americans aren't just losing their jobs, they're giving up on work altogether. Not out of laziness, not because of UBI, but because the economic model is broken. The Social Security Administration's own data shows that labor force participation has dropped to 62.3% in 2026, a number we haven't seen since the 1970s. And it's not just the old or the sick. It's healthy, educated, middle-aged people who've been chewed up and spit out by an economy that demands everything from them and gives nothing back. People who've sent out 1,000 job applications with no response. People who've taken jobs beneath their qualifications just to survive, only to get laid off again 6 months later. People who are tired of fighting for $18 an hour while rent is $2,400 and groceries are up 29% in 2 years. These people are done, and they're not coming back. They're moving in with family. They're quitting the rat race. Some are living out of vans. Some are building side hustles. Others are turning to underground economies, bartering, gig work, even off-the-books labor just to get by. And all of this creates a death spiral. Because when millions of capable workers leave the labor force entirely, productivity drops, business slows, companies can't grow, and even more jobs vanish. It's a psychological unraveling of work ethic, trust, and belief in the system. A recent Gallup poll found that only 28% of Americans now say they feel engaged with their jobs, the lowest number in 20 years, and 44% say they would quit tomorrow if they could. That's not a healthy workforce. That's a powder keg. And once this cultural shift reaches critical mass where working full-time no longer provides dignity, purpose, or even basic survival, we're not just going to see unemployment spike. We're going to see mass withdrawal, a labor rebellion, a silent strike on the economy. And when that hits, there's no stimulus check, no rate cut, no jobs report that can stop it. Because it won't be a recession. It'll be a rejection. A rejection of a system that's failed its workers, failed its promises, and left people to drown. And that's the true collapse no one is ready for. This isn't a cycle. It's not a correction. This is collapse. And by the time the headlines finally admit it, it'll already be too late. Millions will be out of work. Entire industries will vanish. Families will lose homes, healthcare, hope. We're not heading into a recession, we're heading into a full-blown breakdown of the American labor system. And if you're not prepared for it mentally, financially, emotionally, you're going to get wiped out. So ask yourself right now, if you lost your job tomorrow, how long could you survive? And if the answer isn't months, it's already started for you. Subscribe, stay alert, and whatever you do, do not trust the system to save you, because it won't.